If you could have a coach help you identify and focus on what's important, would that accelerate your success? If you answered yes, then this podcast is for you. Each week, my guests, professional coaches, will share one actionable piece of advice to help you level up wherever you need it most. My name is Chris Ippolito, and welcome to the Get Coached podcast. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the Get Coached podcast.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So this time around, we kind of teased a little bit at the end of the last episode we did together, but you are a published author.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about how that went about, but I really wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that process, because really my goal at the end of this episode is that everybody who's listening will realize that they could actually go out and be a published author as well. They just need to find enough friends who want to do it with them, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So do you mind sharing kind of from the beginning how this all came about? First off, maybe let's remind everybody, what's the name of the book? And then after that, just share, like, how did this all come about?
Sure. So this is the book, The Secret Diaries of a Female Entrepreneur. And this book came about, I was in a group of 30 female entrepreneurs, and we're all kind of in the beginning stages of our journey as entrepreneurs. And our coach, she came up to us, she's like, would you guys be interested in writing a book? So we all got together and we brainstormed about what this book could entail, because we didn't want to write our own book because that's a lot of work. And we think there's more of an impact if you can have more contribution from different people telling different stories and more impact. So from this, we all sat down, we're like, okay, what could we all talk about? So then we looked at what's important to us, what journey we were on, and it was obvious that we're all on the same journey to self-discovery, of creating a life of more impact, more meaning. We're all desiring to be entrepreneurs and building our career as an entrepreneur. So this book is our stories. There are 19 other authors and myself, so 20 total. And this book is all about sharing our stories from the beginning days, from the high moments to the low moments, and just sharing what we have been through. So this can inspire other females or anyone in general who desire to be an entrepreneur and go after their, desired career and lifestyle. And it's just to help them, give them advice about what we've been through and how they can be successful in their journey to their desired life and business.
I like the idea a lot as far as sharing it from 20 people's perspective, because now all of a sudden people are going to see that everybody kind of goes through the same journey, and it just all of a sudden normalizes this experience that they're kind of thinking like, oh, why me? I must really suck at this. But then now they're reading 20 people's stories and they're like, oh, geez, they all went through their own trials and tribulations and challenges, and on the back end of it came the results that they didn't maybe reach a destination, but they went through it, right? And then they became a business owner or an entrepreneur or whatever it was that they're striving for. So I loved that the concept of sharing the stories. And then obviously, as I shared last time, I just loved the idea of piecemealing almost like this book to put together, and now all of a sudden you've got a book, like you're a published author. And so you mentioned it was the coach that kind of brought it up. Where did that idea come from? Do you know, like, was this something she had done before in the past or had seen done? Because personally, I've never heard about it until you had shared this with me.
It came about because she was also a published author, but she had her own book. And with being an author, it has that visibility and trust stamp that helps pin you as an expert. And she wanted that for us, but we wanted to find a way that we could all do it and it could be more attainable. So that's kind of how it started, just by being like, okay, how can we share our message, but also use this in a way for our marketing and our visibility? So it's kind of a win-win situation when we decided to go after the book.
Awesome. And how long did it take from kind of initial decision to, hey, let's do this, to when it finally was published and ready to share with the world?
Oh, okay, let me see. It took about, I think the writing process took about 4 months,
Okay.
and it could have been a lot faster. So my chapter is, I believe, 30 pages. So it's 5 sub chapters.
Hmm.
So I think the whole process was around like 4 months. And then after we had all of our chapters done, then we sent it out to a publisher who was working with us throughout this whole journey. So I should probably mention that too. So she helped with the design of the cover. And with this, like, we all had our own chapters done, sent them in. Then she reviewed them, edited, put in the editing and the formatting. And then after that, it was all about marketing.
Right.
So I guess the process of our work for writing was just 4 months, and then we can talk about marketing and stuff like that if you like.
Sure. Why don't we? I really want to dig into the process a little bit more, just to
Okay.
try and break down that belief that it takes years potentially to write a book, and just I, I want I think I want to help the audience and even myself realize, like, anybody could do this.
Mm-hmm.
So your portion of it you mentioned was 30 pages long. Do you know approximate word count?
Yeah, I think it was about 5,000. Does that sound about right?
5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me look at, so in, for how we did it, it's to break it down for structure. It's all about, we did 5 different subchapters. And I'll pull out my chapter really quick. And with this, when you sit down to write, you want to think about your audience and what they want to hear. So everything that you write, you want to almost be like you're stepping in their shoes.
Hmm.
So what is this person going through? How can I relate to them? And then how can I give them advice to tell them, like, yes, you can do this. This is what I have done. Kind of lead by example. So that was the whole, when we started, those were the guidelines. Just really sit in the shoes of your ideal client and figure out what they'd want to hear. Like, what would you tell yourself 3 to 5 years ago?
Right.
That most likely is your ideal client. That's who it is in my case. So the 5 sub chapters that we wrote, it's all about, the first one I can break. Do you want me to break them down for you?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay. So the first sub chapter was about my life before I decided to become an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So this is about saying, like, where you were when you realized, like, or what you were doing in life before you realized, like, this isn't for me. So that's just kind of setting the scene so they get to know you, relate to you. And then this next sub chapter, it's all about that moment you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, this one thing happened, and these are the first steps I took.
Right. Like,
And then,
you had your aha moment, and then, or
yep.
the epiphany actually, and
Mm-hmm.
then you moved on to the next step.
Yep. So we have, first subchapter is life before, then the aha moment. Second subchapter, then third subchapter is you taking first steps. And then the fourth one is me getting more into what success, or my journey, some of the ups and downs. And then the last one is future pacing.
Mm.
You kind of take them on a journey, like, okay, like, you can relate to me. This is when I'm like, ooh, I've been in the burning bush. I need to do something different. First steps, some of the journey, and then future pace. Help them see that there is success, and it might not be right away, but there is a next step, and there is a future for what you want if you work towards it.
Right. So do you think this kind of process would work on subjects that would be, let's say it was on the subject of sales funnels. I'm bringing this back up again because
Okay.
you and I both do it. Now let's say there's a group of like 5 or 10, up to 10, we'll say, that are
Okay.
similar positions. They're like just starting out, but they're like, I know this stuff really well, I just have not had the chance to build my authority over it.
Mhm.
Do you think this similar process of co-authoring a book could work on a subject like that, where it could be almost a little bit more technical, and a little bit more like, because yours, the one that you got, as the title kind of indicates, it's a story of 20 different
Mhm.
people, whereas if it was on the subject of sales funnels, each person would be maybe bringing their own perspective about digital marketing, or maybe they excel in one specific category. One is social media, and then the other is, I don't know, email marketing or whatever it is. Do you think it could work in that eh, concept as well?
I do. You mentioned this. It would just be a different format. So our book was more about telling stories, but that would be more of an informational book. So
Mm,
it'd be like top tips from sales funnel experts or digital marketers. And then it would be, you could still work in stories there. I would suggest like you start with like saying, this is what you should do and why, and then some of your experience with it. So you can have like case studies.
yeah,
I love using case studies as much as I can.
yeah.
So you could bring
Stories are always really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can bring your expertise, but I would just frame it as like a learning book,
Mm,
or like a workshop book where each author or contributor has their top tips for success in creating a sales funnel or digital marketing. So I definitely
mm,
think that's good. You just have to find, for our audience, you have to be specific on who they are and why they pick up the book, because
right.
all our stories, they are so different, but the audience who we're targeting, they'll want to read all of them. So you just want to find that niche and frame the marketing so
Mm.
it would appeal to them.
Right, right. So
So yeah, I definitely think.
regardless of the subject of the book, uh, start with the end in mind as far as who are you writing this book for, right? And then
Mhm.
that way you can tailor the message and the content so that it's more for, well, not more for them. So it's for them. It's something that they're going to enjoy reading front to back versus trying to figure out which each individual wants to bring to the table, because then there might not be any alignment. Yeah, that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah, I like how you said start with end in mind. And I think we talked about this in our other episode. I always look at it how I define my ideal client. Like if I'm making a new product or a new like one-to-one offering, I look at where they currently are and where they want to be. And like the book would help them bridge that gap.
Right. Right.
So you just think about that. And there's so many things that they can learn. So it's kind of like the sky's the limit. But
Yeah.
it's just getting clear on who that person is and then finding a way to compile stories or lessons that they'd want to read.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
now let's get to the other side of it. Now, book's
Okay.
done, 20 people, obviously, that's a lot of people involved. How did the promotion side of it go? So it's not just your book, it's your book plus 19 other people. So what did that side of it look like? Did you guys all kind of come together and have a bit of a shared strategy, or did each person kind of go out there and promote it as their own, on with their own strategy and approach?
So we had a publisher that we worked with who did all of like the behind the scenes, like compiling the book, working with a graphic designer for the cover. And with this, we set up a marketing strategy together. So we had like a month before the launch do this, 3 weeks before, like 2 weeks before, then the week of. So
Right.
we had a marketing strategy that we put in place. And how we were able to get to be bestseller was we had all our networks and we're able to leverage those networks. And with our marketing strategy, the main thing we're pushing for was the pre-sale.
Mm,
So on the pre-sale day, you could buy the book for 99 cents. It was a Kindle version, so the
yeah.
electronic version. And it was only available for like 8 hours. And that's how we
Mm,
got to be bestseller, because the sheer amount of volume we had in that short amount of time.
yeah.
So all of our promotion was leading towards that one pre-sale day.
Nice.
And we had a marketing schedule leading up to there. And we'd share, like, we had a Facebook group that we opened. And this is a good idea just to funnel your traffic into one area. And once we did that, we would all like go on and share like little snippets of our story and be like, oh, and if you want to hear more, the pre-release date is this day and stuff
I,
like that. So
can I ask how you did that? Was that Facebook lives or videos or written? Like, how did you share?
sure. So we had a Facebook group,
Yeah.
and within this group, I think we invited 50 connections each.
Okay.
So with this, we would go on our personal page or a business page on Facebook and say, hey, like I have a new exciting, like a book is coming out. I'd love to tell you guys more. If you're interested to hear more, go inside this group. Once we
Mm,
funneled them into the group, we then would go live. We'd have at least one or two lives a day where we'd go on and just say, hey, like, thank you so much for your interest. And then we'd just share our main selling points.
Right.
So those moments, kind of like a cliffhanger, so they'd want to know more. And then we'd promote the pre-sale date.
Hmm.
So
I
all
like it.
Facebook Lives and then written posts with photos.
Nice. And then,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I love that strategy of basically it's like a product launch funnel. So
Mm-hmm.
you're building up to that launch date, building up all that anticipation and energy, and then making a great offer. Because I mean, 99 cents, you can't really. That's it's pretty hard to say no to
Yeah.
that. Then
Oh, yeah.
putting time restriction on it, so creating the sense of urgency,
Mm-hmm.
and bang, there you go. You're now a best-selling author. That's awesome.
Thank
So
you.
on after that, what has been, what was there some follow-up steps thereafter, or kind of where has the journey gone next for you after doing the big launch and all that?
So it has been great for two reasons. One, for trust stamps. As the field of entrepreneurship is getting more and more saturated, it's
Mm,
important to find a way to stand out. And just by saying you're an author, you've been in a book, that helps kind of be like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And it's also been extremely exciting and powerful because I'll talk to people on Facebook and they're like, oh, I read your chapter in your book. Like, I resonated with what you said. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, people actually care to read about my story.
yeah,
And it's just great being able to share my message because it shares my why, the reason why I started my business. And that's how I connect with my clients. So being able for them to like pick up the book and just read it, it helps me grow those connections with potential clients
yeah,
and to,
building the
yeah.
relationship.
Definitely. And so it has helped to grow my business for those two reasons. And it's kind of opened up my mind for what is possible and like what I can do now. I'm like, oh, I've been in a book. Let's see what else can I make.
Yeah,
So it just
yeah,
shows you what's possible, and especially like the power of a collaboration, like doing podcast interviews, doing like Facebook Live collaborations. They're extremely powerful. And it just shows you that if you get a group of people together and share networks, how you can all benefit from that.
yeah, it's very true. It's
Mm-hmm.
so there's a very common saying of being a self-made millionaire, right? I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you've heard it, we've all heard it.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much false behind that statement. It actually kind of drives me bonkers now when I hear it, because nobody is technically a self-made millionaire, self-made success. There's always other people that were involved, whether in a supportive role, a mentoring role, a
Mm-hmm.
partner role, whatever it is. So I, look at that. I mean, you couldn't say that you're a self-made best-selling author, right? Because there was, first off, 19 other people that were a part of the collaboration. Then there was the publisher, the editing. There was just so many other people that were involved in it. And it just really reinforces the fact that if you want success, it's best to do it, well, not just best, it's almost impossible to do it on your own. You have to do it with other people. And it's just around, the question now is, who do you surround yourself with
Mm-hmm.
that are going to be either wanting to or on the same path and same journey, which is, I think, and you'd mention it, like each 20 of the co-authors were all in fairly similar positions as far as they were just starting out their businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas if somebody was 5 or 10 plus years already into their journey, w- yes, they could have done it, but it's not quite the same story that the other people would have had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that goes back to just your audience. So by being by being in a similar position, it just helped for our stories to be have more similarities than we knew they would have. So
Right.
it just
Right.
helps for that the purpose behind the book.
Yeah. There was like more cohesion along
Yeah,
the story.
and
So,
it's one thing I liked about the book. We kind of talked about this earlier. Is on social media, it's really easy just to show the highlight reel. And
yeah.
with this book, we're able to show like the authentic journey, which is
Hmm.
hard to get across nowadays. Not everyone sees it. And I know when I started my journey, I'm like, oh my God, that girl's perfect. She has all this stuff. It looks so easy. And that's not realistic at all. Entrepreneurship is tough.
Yeah.
So like one of the just being able to share that story and just tell people like, yeah, that all the like highlight reel you see on social media, that's not the truth. Like there's more to it than what you see on social media. So that's a good thing books can do for sure.
Very true. That's why a lot of big names like Gary Vaynerchuk and Russell Brunson, and there's so many others where their number one piece of advice to most new entrepreneurs is to document their journey, whether
Mhm.
it's in written form, video form, or audio form. So blog, YouTube channel, or a podcast, and you document the journey, and you share both sides of it, not just the highlights, but the pitfalls and the challenges too, because like you said, unfortunately a lot of people compare themselves to just those highlights, and
Mhm.
obviously that's not the entire truth. And the story that you share is exactly that. It's sharing, like, where you were at, your mindset during those challenges, and but then the shift you made to be able to get to where you're at right now.
Mhm.
And I think that's the huge value of something like that, which is
I agree.
awesome. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
on behalf of everybody who reads it, thanks for sharing, because I think there's a lot of people out there that um I don't know if they're afraid to, or yeah, I guess that's what it'd be. They're afraid to share their authentic self, like the
Mhm.
journey they've gone through, and then they put on this persona of perfection, which um because they think that's what everybody else wants to see, when in reality that makes you less relatable, because we are all flawed and have gone through our own struggles and journeys.
And it's funny you said it because I know how important it is to share my like the story I never want to tell. Man, one of my coaches, she's like, "That's the story you always need to tell, the
Mm,
one you never want to tell because you're vulnerable and you don't want to admit that you're not perfect, that you're flawed. But that's how people, like you said, that's how they relate to you.
yeah, because we are all flawed.
Yeah, and they want to know that like what you're doing is attainable and achievable for them by saying, "Hey, I'm just like you. I make mistakes too." They're like, "Okay, I can do it
Yeah,
too."
yeah. So you'd mentioned after doing the book and seeing the results of it, you've kind of like you've asked yourself that question of, well, what should I do next? Have you
hmm
given that some thought? Do you have something in mind that you're looking to do next, that you're willing to share, of course?
Yeah, of course. Before we started recording, we talked about how I went to a mastermind yesterday. And as entrepreneurs, it can be kind of lonely because all the work I do with my clients is over the computer. So after this mastermind, I've been playing with the idea of having some type of workshop or something of that sort just to get everyone in one room
Mm,
and to brainstorm with each other, bounce ideas off one another. And I have been planning to do a workshop of my own on marketing. So this is my next, I'm hoping to launch it in 2 weeks. It's my like next step of after doing, just because I do one-to-one coaching now. And this way with a workshop setting, you can have collaborations too. So I can bring in experts that do branding
yeah,
or sales. So that's my, I guess my next step after the book, because I saw how powerful it was to bring other experts together. And I want to continue to do that because I don't know everything.
yeah.
So I want to bring in other experts who know what I don't know to help our audience and help them with their journey to success. So that is the next thing on the I guess the goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited
That's
for it.
awesome. And when by the time this releases, you'll have probably done multiple workshops, or at least hopefully.
hmm
If somebody wanted to and lives local to you, so let's maybe share that real quick, because you're planning on doing this more of like a local thing, right?
Yes,
Or
so
you're
I'm
thinking
going
doing
to
it
start
online.
them in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, okay,
That's where we'll start, and I'll probably do a handful of them, and then I want to go around the U.S.
okay,
to like other major cities. So yeah, we'll
cool.
start here and then expand.
That's awesome. And
Thank you.
so anybody who listens and wants to connect, do you want to share some of your contact information or the best place to find you?
Sure. The best place to find me is Facebook.
Facebook.
Just under my name, Nicole Prentice or Nicole Prentice Coaching. Those are both my business page and personal page. And then for more information about me in general, it's my website, www.nicoleprentice.com.
Awesome. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I think as I like to do is try and have one actionable piece of advice that
Mhm.
the audience can kind of take away. Coming out of this, what do you think that would be? I have something in mind, but I'm kind of curious what you're thinking. Like, what should the audience do to maybe, I almost feel like the theme of this episode is break down those false assumptions of
Mm,
being able to achieve something, and instead go find other people that are wanting to achieve the same goal, and then figure out how you as a group can go and do it, whether it's a
mhm.
book, a summit, a workshop, a mastermind. It doesn't really matter. Just maybe go find that group of people.
Yep. All right. So after that, it's to get clear on who you want to help and why. Because once
Yeah,
you know what they're struggling with, there are so many things you can do off of it.
yeah,
So
just
I just get clear on what you're passionate or who you're passionate about helping and
yeah,
why you're passionate about helping them. And then once you find that, you can say, okay, this is my niche. This is
right,
who I want to help. And
yeah.
then find other people who help that same
There we
individual.
go.
And
Perfect.
boom,
Yeah, I like it. Okay,
keep
so
growing.
the one thing is get super, super specific and crystal
Hmm.
clear on who you want to help. Once you've figured that out, now when you're building relationships, that's going to be a little bit more top of mind to try and find
Yes.
other people who are on the same mission of helping that niche market. And then there's where your collaborative opportunities will present themselves.
Yep. Perfect. So as
Awesome.
long as you
Love
know
it.
your why, you can find others who have similar whys and just it's it's crazy because when you reach out, people are always willing to have a collaboration. They're like, heck yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is why this podcast even exists. So
Hmm.
let's maybe wrap up with this. If you are out there and listening and you want to help female entrepreneurs, millennials specifically, reach out to Nicole, right?
Yep.
And if you're looking to help business coaches reach a wider audience and impact more lives, reach out to me because that's my goal, my mission.
Perfect. Crystal clear.
Awesome. Cool. Well,
Perfect.
thanks, Nicole. Always a pleasure. I have a feeling we will continue talking, and I look forward to those future conversations.
Well, thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Thanks. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Get Coached podcast. If you're looking for more information, you can head over to our website, which is getcoachedpodcast.com. You'll find the show notes for this and every other episode there. And if getting actionable advice every week from professional coaches is something you want more of, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.